Hello friends, I'm Tyler Patner and welcome to another installment of the Pyramyd Insyder. Today may be the most hotly anticipated gun of 2026, the Gen 2 Umarex Notos. Here we go. So the Gen 2 Notos was announced at SHOT Show 2026, so in January of this year, and is the logical, longer extension of the Notos line, giving you many of the things that you were asking for from the original Notos. Now, the original Notos was wildly popular, our best-selling PCP last year, maybe our best-selling gun last year, I don't know, either way. Very, very popular, and with good reason. A sub $300 PCP carbine, rifle, whatever you want to call it, pistol with an attached buttstock, I don't know. Great little gun, phenomenal. Not the most powerful, not a lot of adjustment, but a great gun nonetheless. And one that you guys have modded to high heaven, right? And that's cool too, I like that a lot. But Umarex with this Gen 2 is giving you at least the easily addressable upgrades, if you will, that many were asking for out there, myself included to a certain degree. So let's start at the front and go through what's different about the Gen 2 compared to that Gen 1. Now, at the front of the Gen 2 Notos, we do have a SilenceAir technology-filled moderator section. Now, what's different about the Gen 2 from the Gen 1? This is now kind of one single form. I believe this moderator is a separate piece here at the front, but it looks much better in terms of the profile than the Gen 1 did. The Gen 1 had kind of a round thing. Maybe Brian can throw up an image. This, in my opinion, looks a lot better and seems to be just as effective. Now, underneath this shroud setup here, you have a slightly longer barrel. I believe a 13.5, somewhere 13.25 inch rifled barrel, of course. That is a 2.5 inch difference from the original. Now, if you're asking what that longer barrel gives you, that gives you more velocity potential, right? And to accompany that increased velocity potential that you're going to get out of the Gen 2, you also have a longer air cylinder as well. The original, about 66 cc's of air volume capacity. The Gen 2 here, 118, so almost double the air capacity that you had with the Gen 1. What does that mean? More shots per fill, right? So good things, right? More power, more shots per fill without making the gun a significant amount longer. You are looking at a roughly 35-inch package when this buttstock is fully extended, which it's not right now, but you get the idea. So still very compact, very maneuverable, and just like 4.25 pounds without a scope. So still very, very easy to handle regardless of the size of the shooter. Now, jumping back up here to the shroud section really quickly, you do have a full-length Picatinny rail section, and that does jump the breech here, and that is all polymer, okay? So we didn't have any problems with this with the Gen 1 Notos, and I don't think we will here, but it is a polymer rail setup, so know that going in. And you do have two enlarged slots here for the open sights. So that open sight set that was available for the Gen 1 Notos should fit this no problem. No reason to change that for those of you that want the open sights there, but I suspect most of you are going to be mounting an optic as I have here. We're gonna jump back to the front here because there's two significant changes that I think will be very well received. The original Notos had a fill probe with a quick disconnect machined on. The Gen 2 has a removable cap at the front that covers up this QD fitting here, and that is a very nice touch. One thing I will say, this is a polymer cap and that's fine, is if I point this at Brian's camera right there, you will notice that the opening of that quick disconnect is still exposed. I'm not sure why Umarex didn't cover that because I want a dust cap personally, but that's a small gripe, and I think this addresses most of that issue. The reality is, unless you are jamming this gun into the ground or something, there's not really a good reason why this would get dirty, but it could, I suppose. Now, the gun still fills the 3625 PSI, 250 bar. The other difference here that is a nice change in my opinion is the gauge mounted on the side of the cylinder. A nice color-coded gauge, very easy to read and easy to deal with when you're filling this, but nice and at the side, not on the end of the cylinder, very easy to read without having to point the gun in your own general direction. So nice touch from Umarex there. They're going to this side setup on a lot of their guns this year, and I think it's a very good change. Now moving back towards the breech of our Notos Gen 2, you do still have a fully regulated system that is unchanged. I am not sure if the pressure output of that regulator has been bumped at all, but longer barrel, we'll talk about the adjustability of this in a second. I don't think you're gonna need it, so they probably didn't change it, but I could be wrong about that. Just we'll find out when we chronograph it, kind of where it falls off. You do also have a degassing screw on the side right about here, so know that if you need to degas the gun to work on it, if you're traveling with it, something like that, that is there and makes degassing very easy. Moving on down to the trigger. Two things. You do still have the push safety through the trigger. I'm not a huge fan of this, but it works. You do also have a trigger pull weight adjuster screw. I'll turn this sideways so Brian can see it better. So nice that you do have the adjustment here. You can see the screws fairly far backed out. This is how it arrived to me. Now, as we move up the breech, one thing you will notice is that you do have a big departure in the cocking lever department from the original. The original had that very sleek kind of side profile system here where you could reach in with your finger and pull it back. This is a proper drop down side lever now, and the cool thing about it, it is reversible. Now, one gripe I do have is that Umarex does not give you in the manual the procedure that you need to go through to swap it from that left hand to the right hand side. You can see there's this rubber cover here. You just remove it and that is fully exposed, and you can tell just by looking at it that it is ambidextrous to allow you to swap it. But instructions would be helpful. Maybe there's a video or something coming, I don't know, but that is doable if you want to take that on yourself and swap it from the left hand side to the right hand side. But in general, super easy to operate this way. I mean, you can just sit there in the scope and run this gun all day. So very, very nice. I love the fact that they made this change. I think a lot of you were asking for it out there, and the fact that it is reversible, I think, is a big upgrade as well. Now, another change that I think is going to be a welcome change for many of you out there is the new magazine system. Now, this looks a lot like some of the aftermarket magazines I've seen for the Notos. I don't know if this was a collaboration with one of those makers that's out there on the aftermarket, or if this is Umarex's own design, and I only say that because I'm not overly familiar in terms of hands-on with some of those aftermarket mags, but I have seen them online before. This is a 15 round 22 caliber magazine. You'll notice you have this kind of slot in the back here. So when you go ahead and cock the gun, you line up the slot here with the slot in the breech and push it on through. There we go. And you can see I am in there. Now, what you might also be able to see is that there is very, very little clearance between the magazine and my scope. Know that going in. You may need higher rings, or you may need to play with the positioning of the saddle of your scope to ensure that it clears the magazine. This is a fairly tall magazine, but based on the design overall, I think this is something many of you out there that are getting used to with many guns. Now, taking the magazine out, that big 15 rounder, the gun does still ship with a single shot tray, and that is magnetic on the underside, so that just slides in very easily and kind of locks into place. We'll use the magazine today, but the single shot tray is a nice thing to have if you prefer shooting in that little bit of a slower cadence. Now, while I have the action cocked here, I will show you decocking. Very simple, similar to pretty much everything else that's out there. Hold the bolt back with your hand, pull on that trigger, you heard it release, let it go forward. You are good to go. I'll put the gun back on safe here and we can continue on. Now let's talk about this rear stock setup. It does look a little bit different from the Gen 1 Notos. You don't have that kind of plastic extension here that connects things. you don't need it either. This does secure with 2 screws on each side of the grip. So kind of, it'll come apart, you put it together, add the screws in, and you are gonna be good to go. So 4 screws in total, takes a minute or 2 to put it together. But the buffer tube assembly and the buttstock come pre-installed on the stock, so you are all set basically right out of the box. You just plug this thing in, put your screws in, and you are good to go shoot. And of course, you do have multiple points of adjustment via this adjuster back here. That's all the way in, that's all the way out. So about 35 and a quarter, 34 something at the back here, all the way extended. I don't know how small this is. That's in the locked position though right here, but it's still a fairly compact package. No gripes in that regard. One thing I do want to tell you guys about that I'm not going to show you here. When the grip is removed, so the grip and the stock section all come off as one piece, there is a hammer spring adjustment screw in the back of this that adjusts with a normal flat head screwdriver. The manual details which way to go. Obviously, like clockwise is going to increase hammer spring tension and give you more velocity. Counterclockwise is going to back that out. That will have an impact on your shot count. So you do have some of that adjustability that many of you ask for. That was also present on the Gen 1 Notos, and they have covered kind of what that adjustment range might be per turn in the manual. So actually pretty significant. So I'm just gonna run it like we got it out of the box, but just know it does have some of that adjustability if you wanna play with different pellets or trying to get the most power or way less power and more shots out of it. Now that we've run you guys through the Gen 2, the changes, what's the same, the important part comes up now. We're gonna show you how to load this magazine real quick, and then we are gonna hit the range and see what the performance out of the box looks like on this Notos Gen 2, because I know that's what y'all are waiting for. Let's do it. So the magazine in the unloaded position, one thing you will notice, there is a blocker for the opening. That means you are not gonna be able to load your pellet probe through the magazine when it is empty, and that is a good thing. It means you're not gonna waste air taking shots that don't have a pellet behind it. So you just rotate that cassette around to your first opening, drop your pellet in. Now, when I let that go, you'll notice it's holding itself in place. So I'm just gonna keep on going around to each opening, load them all up. And here is our last one, and you can see it holds itself in place there, so we are ready to slide that on in and go shoot. So we'll see you out at the range. Let's do this. All right, guys, Notos Gen 2, 45 yards, all from the magazine here. JSB Hades, a 1-inch group. Not amazing, but not bad either. I mean, like, usable, right? Like, you're gonna hit a squirrel most of the time at 45 yards. JTS 16 grains. Now, we had this one down here. I don't know if that's a flyer, could have been me. The trigger's a little heavy, so You know, sometimes I struggle with these small guns off the bench. Could have been me, certainly, but a .85 inch 5-shot group, that's like basically one big hole right there. So that's good. Solid overall. JSB 18s, 3/4 of an inch. Again, not bad, but nothing holding a candle to these JTS 18 ones. .42 sub MOA at 45 yards. What more can you ask for? This is setting the exact same standard. Well, maybe not exactly the same, but really, really tight grouping, small gun, super accurate at 45 yards. Let's see what this thing does over the chronograph. Very impressive accuracy. Looking over our chronograph results here for the Notos Gen 2 with those JTS 18 1-grain pellets, you were looking at 27 shots from 3625 PSI down to about 2000 PSI where we fell off the reg. Average velocity 704 feet a second puts us just a hair under 20 foot-pounds with an extreme spread of 11 feet per second, standard deviation of 2.1 feet per second. Very solid numbers overall. The hammer spring is 2 out of 6 turns in here, so you have room to run this gun hotter if you want to, or back it off a little bit and probably get yourself a nice even 30 shots. This compares very, very similarly to our original Notos that we reviewed many years ago. That gun was getting 23 shots per fill with much less air capacity, same fill pressure, same reg pressure, and almost the same power. So I'm a little confused as to why these numbers look the way they do when we are supposed to have considerably more air capacity. To me, this is a little confusing, but the numbers, like I said, look very, very good, very consistent overall, and you've got room to adjust. All right, friends, wrapping up the Notos Gen 2 today. Overall, I think you got a lot of gun for the money, just like the original, but a little bit better, right? You've still maintained a nice, quiet, slim profile, lightweight package here that's very easy to use. And I think the enhancements here really tell the story of where Umarex is trying to build on the legacy that the original Notos kind of built up. And, you know, with that nicer drop-down side lever, those of you that had issues getting your finger in there on the original, you're gonna love this. The side-mounted gauge is a nice touch. Not necessarily huge functionality benefit, but nice that you don't have to point the gun in your own direction, right? And I love the QD on the end. Integrating that, ditching the fill probe is always a thumbs up from me. Overall, the performance is fantastic. You can't fault accuracy like this. We didn't see it with a bunch of pellets, but still, I mean, it was solidly accurate with 4 or 5 pellets. Did not like slugs, but the one pellet that it shot best, those JTS 18 ones, phenomenal, like pinpoint accuracy at 45 yards, and you don't get better than that. So really a lot of gun for the money here. If you're in the market for one of these nice, like what I call subcompact rifle carbine things, you can't overlook the Notos Gen 2. I think it's well worth the $300-ish price point, and one that I'm sure a lot of you guys have been waiting for and will enjoy when you get them into your hands. As always, if you liked the video today, please throw us a like. We appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and let us know what you thought of the gun down in the comments below. If you're going to be picking one up, if you would still prefer the original, or if there's some other carbine on the market that you've got your eye on, what you think the Notos Gen 2 did well, what you didn't, let us know down in the comments below. We'll continue the conversation there. For the Insider, I'm Tyler Patner. We'll see you next time.